All right, hello, rockers, rollers, and heavy metal maniacs. It's the Meister from Brews and Tunes. Cheers. I am absolutely thrilled, beside myself with excitement today. I am chatting with a legend in the rock and roll world, the one and only Mr. Gary Shea, of course, of the mighty Alcatrazz, as well as New England and multiple other bands. Gary, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. This is fun for me too.
Excellent. Oh yeah, I'm so excited to chat with you. I've been telling everybody, I'm going to talk to Gary Shea this week. Like, this is great. Well, I think first and foremost, I have to one, congratulate you on the publication and success of your brand new book, No Bass, No Party,
Yep.
which is excellent. And I would anybody that's watching this, go buy this right now. I think you can get it on Amazon. Go order it immediately. This is, and I'll have a link in the description
Oh,
below as
thank you.
well. But fantastic book. In fact, I was mentioning this to you before we started recording. I read it in 2 days. I mean, it was I couldn't put it down, and I would have read it in one day, but I had to go to work, so unfortunately that got in the way. But yeah,
Yeah.
I what a pleasure to read. What a fun book to read. Just I love the fact that one, it's just honest. It's you. You convey this very kind of everyman, very conversational, easy to read, fun to read, but also very compelling. I was fascinated with it, and I guess my first question. So I haven't even asked a question yet. I guess my first question would be, what compelled you? What made you decide to write a book?
Well, I've always been telling all these crazy stories all my life about we did this, we were there, you know, New England versus the Arkansas State Patrol, Alcatraz versus the Secret Service in Boston, all those kind of stories, war stories. And everybody said, "Oh man, you got to write a book, got to write a book." I said, "Yeah, I can't see me sitting down and writing a book." And I was approached by a Books We Love Publishing in Canada, and they're writing a series on musicians talking about the music business. And they said, "Would you be interested in doing that? And we'll set the whole thing up. Just send in your book, and we'll go for it." And I said, "Great." So that's what happened basically. If I had tried to do a self-written book by myself, it would still be sitting here on my desk probably. It's very hard to self-publish yourself and get advertising for it and everything else.
Right, yeah.
So I'm lucky that I'm with a real publisher that's helping the sales of the book and getting it out there, getting the word out.
Nice, nice. Yeah, and one thing I really like about the book too is that I mean, it is, an autobiography, obviously, it's also it's a cool. You don't just go, here's my life, date by date by date. I mean, there's some of that, but then there's a lot of just like, kind of just conveying kind of these sketches of things that happen to you and the reality of the music industry, and how it impacted you and growing up, being obsessed with music like a lot of us are, and living that dream and making it happen for yourself, just with perseverance and maybe a little bit of luck, but also just, raw talent, of course. And I really enjoyed that approach, rather than just timelines. I thought it was really cool that, you have these really nice asides and gave credit to a lot of people that impacted your life as well. I thought that was great.
I've made some great friends for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
I wanted to include the person reading it. It's kind of like, jump in a car, we'll go to this audition, see how it goes. Are you
yeah,
scared? I am, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. That was cool. Yeah, I felt like as reading, I felt like I was part of what was happening, which was really cool. And especially, I'm a bit younger than you, but it reminded me a lot of my childhood, growing up in the 70s and the 80s, and driving around listening to music and with my friends, and rocking out to Deep Purple and whatnot. And yeah, it really spoke to me on a very personal level, which was cool. And especially your voice is very conversational in the way you write, which I really enjoyed too. So yeah, I thought it's a treasure. I mean, I think obviously any fan of Alcatraz should read this, or New England, but I think any music fan a rock and roll fan should read this book as well. It's just a
Right.
joy to read.
Young kids think they want to join a band,
Yeah, yeah.
here's what might happen.
Yeah, yeah. Here's the
Good
reality
or
of
bad.
what that world is. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was great. And I know that I'm struggling a little bit with some of my questions for you today because I don't want to spoil what's in the book because I want
Uh,
people to read. I want my fans that are watching this to read this book because it's fantastic. But I mean, I definitely do want to talk about kind of, what's going on with you now. But then also, the beginnings of your musical career. Obviously the beginnings of Alcatrazz and New England as well. So, if there's any stuff that you don't want to talk about because it's in the book, we can skip over it.
oh, I'm
So I'll ask
fine.
some questions and we'll kind of go from there and see what happens. Um,
Fine.
so I guess maybe we should start at the beginning. Kind of what was the impetus for you to become a musician? What was that spark? Did you come from a musical family? Like, what was the beginning for you
Yeah.
there?
My grandfather played piano, played in bands and everything. Played for Rudy Valley, actually,
Oh,
back
wow.
in the 1920s. My dad played drums in a drum corps. So he had sticks. They show me paradiddles and flams, but that's as far as that went. Let's get real drums. No, let's not do that. So I had to wait. And I waited till I was late, 14-ish, to then I decided. I met some friends, some neighborhood kids that had guitars and drums, and was hanging with them, and it kind of looked like fun. So I decided to get a guitar and you know twist my mother's arm and all that, and took some lessons, and off I went, joining bands, and up until today. So
Nice. Nice.
it's been
Very
a lot
cool.
of fun. I'm glad I did it. It's
Yeah.
kind of a rocky road, ups and downs, and so 50 years or 60 years maybe
Yeah, that's
doing
wild.
that.
Yeah, and it's yeah, like in the book. I mean, what was so fun reading, is the adventures of that and the misadventures of that as well. And I don't know. I mean, I hope that this still happens, but I know, the idea of a band living together, renting a house and living together and practicing in that house. I don't know. I'm assuming that still happens with young people. I don't know if it does
Right,
anymore. But I know when I was a kid, I knew of multiple bands in my local area that yeah, they had a house, they lived together, they trashed the
right.
house a lot, and lots of parties and practice rooms, and yeah, and it was I thought that was just so cool that just being so entrenched in the music scene, in the music world, that yeah, I mean it's literally your life. Um, and yeah, and the adventures in the book that you describe of living on uh sometimes in the city and then also out kind of in the sticks with
Right.
that with that
Let's rent a house in the woods and rehearse together and
yeah,
see if we
which
don't kill each other in a couple of months.
yeah, which I mean, it's easy to romanticize about it, I guess, as a fan, but it does sound really cool. Just the fact that, yeah, I mean, you guys rented this house and,
Right.
and this, of course, was the band that, eventually became New England. Um, uh,
Right. And that
I,
establishes a camaraderie, in the band and brotherhood thing, sisterhood that when you live together like that and you're together 24 hours, it is a family thing. And you go against all the odds to do that. You run out of gas, the car's got a flat tire, get out and push it to get to the gig, do the gig, and keep it moving up and up and up. And later on in life, you don't want to live with the band. You want to be separated and have
right.
your own tour bus,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
some bands do.
Yeah. You hear the stories of, yeah, like the bands traveling separately, not even speaking to one another until
Yeah,
they're on
they see each
stage.
other at sound check, and they're
Yeah.
out of here. See you tomorrow in the next city.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
that's how that works out for those reasons. And it's not easy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think what I think, and I didn't realize this. I knew that you had worked together for so long, but I guess I hadn't registered with me is your relationship with Jimmy Waldo and how long you guys have been working together. It's amazing. It's
Yeah,
incredible. It's really cool.
yeah.
Just
Since 1970, 75,
nice.
we've been in five bands together, maybe six,
Yeah,
five for sure. But
right.
got record deals and did things, and so we've been hanging out. We're pretty tight. We drove taxi cabs together in Boston and did all kinds of mischievous things in the course of those years we really can't talk about here. But we had a great time, and we're still having fun. We're still doing it.
Yeah,
Still
yeah.
talk all the time. We're going to make another record.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's exciting news for me, especially I absolutely adore Alcatrazz, one of my all-time favorite bands, and from the beginning, from No Parole from rock and roll. But I think, and maybe somebody would argue against this with me, but I think you guys get better with age. I think, I love the early years, but I think what you're producing now is just top notch. I mean, it's you guys outdo yourselves with every album, in my opinion. Um,
Right.
and I'm super excited for the new album. I don't know if you're at liberty to speak much about the album, kind of where
Oh,
you
no,
guys
we're
are at
fine.
right now.
I'm fine. Yeah, there's no secrets. Um, we just signed a record deal, actually.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
We'll be on Brave Word Records.
Oh, great.
And that's pretty exciting. We got new people and new promotion ideas and all that.
Oh, great.
So see what happens. Hopefully it's going to take another tick up and work out better for us. So we're excited about that.
Nice. And you said that's with Brave World?
Hmm.
Oh, great. Michael's what a great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that great record company. Yeah, that's really exciting news. Is there a title, working title that you
No,
can?
not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
It'll be our seventh studio album.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, very cool. Do you is it I mean you're in the process of are you already recording at this point or
No,
still in the writing process?
not till probably the end of the summer,
Okay.
August, September,
Okay. So we
something
could
like
see
that.
the album next year sometime.
Yeah, maybe before Christmas. I don't
Oh,
know.
cool.
See what happens.
Excellent.
But other guys have other projects too, and other bands and things they're doing. Joe's got his solo things, and Jimmy's playing in Warlord, and so is Giles.
Yeah. Yeah. Giles, man, guy's got so much going on.
All that. Mm.
Yeah. Giles is probably one of the hardest workers in the industry. That guy's got
Yeah, he
so
is.
many, so many irons in the fire. You can't even count them. Um,
Yeah,
uh,
40 or 50 at least.
yeah. Yeah. That guy's, yeah,
He's
he's
a
a
master
workhorse.
juggler. But that's because he's so enthusiastic. That's what
Yeah.
makes him so great.
Yeah. Yeah.
He knows music. He knows he's run large record stores. He knows every album that was ever printed since 1969, probably,
Yeah.
and is a fan of all of it. I mean,
Yeah.
he's not partial. He loves Linda Ronstadt. He loves this, that. He's not just tunnel vision with one particular style of music. So
Yeah.
interesting guy. Good
Yeah. Yeah.
guy.
I
Good
love
guy
it.
to travel with.
Oh, I would imagine. Yeah. Yeah. Just a trivia machine, musical trivia machine. Yeah, yeah, he's a fascinating person. I've been lucky enough to have met him a couple times, and yeah, really fun to talk to. Super down to earth, just a lovely person. Same with Jimmy. Jimmy Waldo is just a genuine, like yourself, just a really honest, genuine person. And I was lucky enough to see Alcatraz not too long ago, and unfortunately, you were not there.
I was not there.
Yeah, but yeah, great live show, and I got a chance to chat with Jimmy after the show, and that was one of the things that struck me was not just his honesty, but his graciousness. There's always that fear, you always hear the story, don't meet your heroes, and I mean, Jimmy Waldo is definitely a hero of mine, and somebody I wanted to meet and was very happy to meet because what a gracious, just down to earth, genuine human being, which was great to see.
We've besides the music, we've all had factory jobs. So we drove taxi cabs in Boston in the winter at 3 in the morning. And you get a little humble doing that stuff, and it makes you want to achieve your goals even harder. That's why we're doing it. Did it for 2 years. That's
Right.
why we're putting New England together and focus. But it gives you an appreciation when things go right. You appreciate the fact that we got this going for us, and we have that opportunity, and it's a good thing.
Nice. Nice. Very cool.
And some people that don't do that just sort of live in a bubble, then they expect all these things, and they're hard to get along with because they
Right.
don't appreciate what they've got. You're lucky your car has tires that aren't flat.
Right.
Quit complaining.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and give credit to people that help us. A lot of people. It's a big teamwork thing. It's a huge networking system to make records and go on the road and meet people and all the promoters and the the theater owners and club owners, record people. They're all on the same team to go in there and be a rock star or something. It's just, to me, that's just wrong. Jimmy's the same way. I don't think like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's what and that's what I loved too, seeing, I mean, for me, it was a really big deal. I mean, it's Alcatraz, it's the mighty Alcatraz, and the fact that they're milling about the crowd, chatting with people, hanging out, having beers, just hanging out at the merch booth. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, I thought that was great. That was brilliant. It was so cool, because some you never know, and you think, oh, they might be, these rock gods are going to be out of reach,
right.
and not at all. Just very down to earth. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. It was great. So I'm excited and hoping to see you guys on the road again in the not too distant future with the touring with the new album. Uh,
Yeah.
hopefully that'll transpire. With the new album, I was curious, and I know you're still in the writing process, but in terms of the music and the approach, is it kind of a continuation of the Take No Prisoners kind of style, or what what kind of
Yeah. For our
continuation?
last record, the that Take No Prisoners. Yeah, just heavy metal, rock, melodic. Not we're not um, we're not. There's so many names for metal: black metal, death metal, white metal, yellow metal. I don't know, green metal. It's really gotten kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But we're not like a majority of the bands that are in that genre of I don't know how to describe it. We're just a throwback from the old days. We're more in the league with, Judas Priest or bands like that are our age group that
Yeah.
have the same influences and things. I'm influenced by some of the bands that are out there. Whatever, Nordic Fear, wherever, some band like that, whoever that is, you know, those
That's
aren't my
good.
influences. You know, pick a name,
Right.
uh, Black this and White that, and Black Death meets White Sword or something. So we've in fact, in the beginning, we had a discussion about that with the name of the band, and that's how we went up with the name Alcatraz. Because Ingve wanted it to be Excalibur, to be heavy, man. We got to be heavy. And I
Mhm.
said, we're heavy, we're heavy.
Yeah.
It's okay. We got that covered. You know, get a name like starts with an A, starting at the beginning of the record store. It's a good thing.
Yeah. That's
I
smart.
thought of the name Alcatraz.
Yeah.
So that's how that happened. Next to ABBA and AC/DC, Alcatraz. And hey, man, you're brilliant. Because in New England, we were stuck in the record rack between the New Riders of the Purple Sage and Olivia Newton-John and Frank Zappa records or something, the end of the line. Nobody goes that way in the store.
All right.
They always follow around the A section, the B section, Beatles, So, so musically, that's where we're coming from. Same thing with Jim and I are, we're big Todd Rundgren fans, Nas fans. I mean,
Yeah.
I love the band Nas. So the guys in Cheap Trick with the same influences, exact same thing. And so we're in more with those guys, even though the genres might be a little bit different.
Yeah.
But we've toured with Cheap Trick a number of times as New England and know those guys well. We're all the same age. We have all the same influences. Us, the guys in Aerosmith, are all the same age group. We're all born in like 1940, 1950, 51, and saw the whole music thing come along. Like I point out in my book, that grew up listening to all the solo artists, Bobby Rydell and Gene Pitney and all those guys, and Leslie Gore and all the girls that were single artists. And then then was a surf thing and Jane and Dean and the Beach Boys, and that was cool.
Yeah.
And then the Beatles came along and Stones, and that changed a lot of things. And that's right around the point where we all started playing music. So we like all those things. We listen to a lot of that music, and it comes in the blood of everything of trying to make songs that are good songs,
Yeah.
not just an exercise in playing scales. Look how fast we can go and how long we can maintain that. I just want to be an interesting music. So I don't know what you want to call it, but with something with some oomph to it.
Yeah.
Not not lighthearted and wishy-washy and all that. So a lot of those bands out there too. That's good for them, but it's not what I want to do. So
Right.
next album will be heavy duty. just like we've been just, keeping a continued on thing of what we've been doing. We're trying to explore things. I thought that our second album with Steve Vai was really adventuresome, and we changed things. A lot of people freaked out, and I think if we had done that together, it would have been pretty interesting. We'd
Yeah.
have gone down some serious rabbit holes.
Right.
But musically, it was fun. That's what we're
Yeah.
doing, making music, and I hope that we make music that other people like it. You got to play for yourself first to like it, to be able to do it, and then you hope that people like it. So it's tough. And then some bands have a success with a song, and they kind of move on, and their fans just lose their minds and go, no, no, no horn sections. What are you doing? You
Right.
can't do that. They a guy leaves, and it's really difficult to keep it going.
Right. Yeah.
Especially now that all the bands, again, like Judas Priest, people are getting sick and staying home and or not even here anymore. And bands have to keep getting new members to keep it going, new blood. It's like I said, 40, 50 years ago since all that started. And it's amazing it's gone as long as it did. It didn't, it survived the whole grunge thing in the 1990s and turn of the century with all the computer stuff and all the emo bands. And that's
Right.
still out there. We're up against all the rap guys and all the emo guys and all the guys with a computer and a computerized drums and a little ditty song. And that's nice. And we want to be a real band and kick some ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to hit you in the heart when you hear it. I play the bass and I want the room to shake. I don't want to play, lightly. I want a little thump to it.
Yeah. A little heavy
So
hitting.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what I think. That's one thing that always attracted me to Alcatraz. I think was and I think it's a testament to uh, the fact. I mean, it's the talent, it's the songwriting, and the perseverance of that band. I mean, that yeah. I mean, it's truly a testament. It's like exactly what you said, where yeah, you guys have survived all of these movements and changes in the industry, and always stayed true to form. I mean, you've experimented a lot, like you mentioned. Disturbing the Peace, the album with Vi. Um,
right.
there. I remember when it came out. I love it. I think it's a fantastic album. I've always loved it. I remember there was criticism, from, I mean, that's going to happen because you changed route a little bit. It's funny listening to it now. I don't, it doesn't seem that radical. But I guess at the time, it,
Yeah, it
the
was. We knew Ingve was going to go out and do the classical thing, so we thought, let's do Lohengrin by Wagner, do a real classical piece on the record, really,
yeah,
really do it. And Tommy Mars and Frank Zappa's band arranged the whole thing for us. I had these notes all over my walls, trying to memorize all that stuff, real classical music. And it didn't work out. We didn't have time to finish it off. It didn't make the record, but that was one of the things we're trying to do. So there's always those goals that you set for yourself.
yeah,
We thought it'd be pretty cool to do something like that.
yeah.
So, and
Great.
that was fun. I'm glad we did it. I learned a lot of things as a musician, to play, different styles with different people. What's playing with Vinnie Vincent, who's a different kind of guitar player, or New England's a different kind of guitar playing. And I've been able to play with some really fantastic guitar players.
Yeah,
And play some great music.
yeah, definitely. Well, one of the things I love with your guitar player now, Joe Strom. I mean, he's been in the band for quite some time now, but I think he does a great job of kind of, I mean, he's got his own style, but I love the fact that he can combine, with the old songs, he can combine all of that, Vinny,
Right.
Steve Vai and Yngwie, those styles. But one thing, and nothing against Yngwie in any way, but one thing I like about Joe is I think Joe has a better sense, and this is just my own personal opinion. I think Joe has a better sense of space. Whereas, Yngwie obviously is an incredible guitar player, he's amazing, but I think he gets so busy sometimes that it's a little overwhelming
Right.
as a listener. Whereas Joe, especially in a live setting, I think Joe is so good at, he can do the, fiery guitar solo, but then he knows when to back off and
Right.
allow the band, organically to be all of it to play together. Like he just has a really good sense of all of that. I mean, I think I mean, you're obviously all incredibly professional, amazing musicians. And I think that's one thing I love about you too is, yeah, you guys, especially in that live setting, you guys really know how to, you understand space. And I think, sometimes young bands don't get that anymore, is the idea
Right.
of allowing each member to be what they need to be at the time and backing off and coming forward. And yeah, I don't know if I'm conveying that very well, but I hopefully I,
It's exactly, it's what not to play,
yeah, yeah,
and playing, being a bass player, I'm not the busiest bass player out there. Um, if I was playing in Yes or something, it'd be a different style of bass playing. I love that.
right.
I love all the early progressive stuff like that. But I always said like New England was just a pop, was a progressive band really that played 4-minute songs. So
Yeah,
we had mellotrons and all kinds of keyboards and serious sing like Moody Blues kind of thing, but in a condensed version.
yeah,
And a lot of things happened in 4 minutes in the group New England. We covered a lot of ground in that band.
yeah, you
And
did.
it set us up for the Alcatrazz thing that Ingve never heard of that stuff, but trying to show him like Island Sun was a New England song. Jimmy wrote that song.
Oh,
And so already written a bass part, and, and Graham heard it. He said, "That's kind of like a Motown song. Let's change the words and put that on there." Okay, let's do that. And Ingve wrote the bridge and played the solo, and uh, and that was different for him because it wasn't the kind of thing he's used to playing in his own bands. He had to kind of slow down and think about it for a minute.
yeah,
And um, so there were a lot of we put the group together as a consensus. It was a band. It wasn't a solo band. It wasn't the Grand Bonnet band or anything like that.
right.
And and uh, and there's just certain places where I hold the fort down while those guys can go crazy. Like I said, I hold the fort down. The other guitar players go off into fame and fortune, whatever. Somebody's got to hold the fort down,
Yeah,
and that would be me. And it means not being too busy and not filling all the holes with bass notes. So the time and a place for that.
yeah, yeah. And
So
yeah, you can wail when you want to wail for certain.
yeah, we can play licks. I can do what they're doing on not everything I'm doing. You can't do everything on the bass. You can do on the guitar, but
Right.
so I'm saying we can play some specific licks together and wail for a few seconds and back to the song
Yeah.
and back off. It's a verse. Don't go full tilt boogie. A lot of the bands, the second round on stage is full tilt boogie through the whole concert. There's not one breath or one dip in the emotion. It's just steady barrage.
Yeah.
It's an experience, I think, of dynamics of, having a show that brings you in and out. You breathe and have a great time.
Yeah.
You can do a ballad here and there. I mean, you can do a slow song. It's not the end of the world.
Right. Yeah.
Some people, can't do slow songs. Oh my God, it won't be heavy. It's like there's too much emphasis on being heavy. Just play music.
Yeah.
Play good music.
Yeah. That's what,
If
yeah,
you want
that's
to throw a jazz player, throw,
right.
throw, throw a saxophone in there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Be adventuresome. You know,
Yeah, and
be
I,
true.
that's one thing I've always loved about your music, and and we haven't really talked too much about, or I haven't asked too much about New England, but I think that was one thing that I always loved about New England too, is like what you mentioned, kind of this progressive approach. I mean, you look at some of Jimmy's keyboard work. I mean, it's very orchestral, the way he approached some of those songs, which I thought was
Right.
really cool. And I remember reading, it might be in your book, I can't remember. I remember reading years ago a review, somebody, and I thought it was really interesting because I had never thought about it this way. Is they and this was back in the 80s, early 80s, I think. And the reviewer uh, compared New England to a modern day Yardbirds, which I thought was really interesting. And it made me kind of re-listen to it in a different approach, a little, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Kind of this English pop kind of vibe, but with a
Right.
modern twist to it. And I'm like, huh, I'd never thought about it that way before. And especially at the time, because I was fairly young. Um, but yeah,
Right.
what a great band.
We liked all the ethereal progressive stuff like the first King Crimson album. Greg Lake was in the band, Core of the Crimson King, and all the spacey stuff and
Yeah.
the English, the poetic really, spacey lyrics. It's poetry. It wasn't I, he, she, and the dog jumped over the barrel thing. It was just pretty
Right.
cool.
Yeah.
And we liked all that stuff. But in our own band, we kind of like dwindled it down. So like our song Explore Suite was 6 minutes long. That's got a whole history to it of Electric Records picking the wrong song when a record came out and lost the record because of that 6 minute song. But we had all those influences. That's why I liked it when I first met those guys. I said in the book, I told a story about how I met Jimmy in the first place. So he was in a band from North Carolina, and I played at UConn in Connecticut. And I was in a band living in a house in the woods was with Barry Brandt, who was one day would play in a band Angel,
Oh, yeah.
and a couple other guys. And our friend said, I saw this great band that down the street in this club at UConn, and blah, blah, blah. And 3 years later, I went to England trying to find that kind of music and came back to Boston, and I found Jimmy and his band. And they were looking for a bass player, and I joined the band. That became New England. It was just one of those things. I walked in and said, this feels right. This is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
All kinds of keyboards. And most bands don't have that kind of keyboard player. The keyboard's almost like a token, like a piano thing.
Yeah.
You have to have the keyboard player at all. And most bands are guitar-oriented bands and all that. So it gave us a lot of room to do some aggressive things and some really pretty things. And some of the pretty things just much more as much fun, and I'm proud of that stuff as well as all the other songs that no one had. What's Don't Ever Lose You or Shoot or songs like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
love that stuff. It's just it's so melodic.
right.
And
They're
again,
really cool intros of,
yeah.
12-string guitar and this kind of wind blowing in the background, spacey stuff. And then the band comes in and all hell breaks loose. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like songs like Shall I Run Away on the first album, Honey Money on the second album. They're just, each one's a different piece of music. And the great thing about New England was that John Fannin never played the same guitar solo twice.
Hmm.
So every solo he has in all those 30, 40 songs, they're all different cool guitar parts that he put together.
Yeah.
Some are like George Harrison backward guitar things. He plays more like David Gilmour as opposed to playing like Jeff Beck.
Right.
And we had a certain sound. And when we got going, everyone said, heard our demo, says, no way these guys can do this live. Just too much going on. And then they came to our place in the woods and we did it. Sang all the four parts, played all the parts and the keyboards and two keyboards, and I got bass pedals and bass, and I got 12-string, 6-string guitar like Jimmy Page, and we went for it, and everyone's went, whoa. And that's how we got launched at that point. And we'd done our homework, done 2 years of defining all that.
Yeah.
So when people came in, when the time was right, we had our act together. Even though we hadn't played bars and stuff in a couple of years, big deal. We'd
Yeah.
done this since we were in high school.
Yeah. Very professional. Yeah. And
Yeah,
I loved in the book how you talk about it was almost like a revolving door of record folks coming
yeah,
to the house in the woods to see you guys
yeah.
play live.
The
And
key word was record presidents.
yeah,
Clive,
yeah,
Clive Davis. I mean,
yeah, that's
Clive
incredible.
F.
Clive
Davis
Davis.
walked in the door,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he sat right in front of me, in front of my bass amps. I'm going, Jesus.
Yeah.
We weren't that loud. I mean, we were loud there, but it sounded like the room was tweaked. It was a small cottage with the walls were knocked out. So it had wooden floors, little wooden cottage. And how shook we play, but it wasn't loud. There was no feedback. There was no extraneous noises like that. And then we showed them we can play stuff live, even better than the demo. It's heavier live. People go, holy shit, it's that good, but it's heavy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you don't hear the bass on the records. You don't hear the thumping and stuff.
Yeah.
And I got this amp, I want four more. And we did all that. You know, had great gear. We had cases for cases. When your band goes from hauling stuff in the rain and the snow to having like $25,000 just of loan cases, just the cases cost $25,000
Yeah.
with
No kidding.
40 of them.
That's crazy. That's yeah,
So
that's
that was interesting.
yeah. You mentioned a little bit ago, and circle back for a second. You mentioned going to England, and that was another fascinating part of the book. I thought was the fact that yeah, you with very little money just went, I'm going to England, as a young, very young man. I'm going to go to England and find a musician to play with, which that's pretty
Yeah,
ballsy. I mean, even
I
for
did
back
that.
then.
Yeah,
And I know like that was something that it reminded me of because I know Neil Peart of Rush did the same thing. When he was a young man, he just went to England like I'm going to go find musicians to play with. It was
right,
pre-Rush for him, obviously.
right.
And yeah, I thought that was really
Yeah.
cool that you did that.
Huey Lewis did it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's
yeah.
like,
He's over there playing harmonica in
yeah,
some rock. I forgot what rock band he was in, but a pretty well-known rock band.
yeah,
Way before he was Huey Lewis. That's like early 1971, 72, 73, somewhere in that ballpark.
yeah,
And that's what I talk about in the book is that time of going there. And it was pretty exciting because I caught the tail end of this 1960s in London, which was still pretty cool, the whole mod thing and
yeah,
the cool clothes and the boutiques and the clubs and all the famous bands were still together, still all the same original people. And they're out there playing, walking around the streets and wow. So I wound up meeting a lot of cool guys and playing music there. And I wrote about that whole transition.
yeah.
Uh,
That was,
Again, not much money.
yeah, I thought
I
that
have
was,
a, I have a, I have a story that I didn't put in the book. That I was Michael Corby and I were living together in a squatter's flat across. Right, first met him, and there's an English law about squatting where if you take over the building, they can't really throw you out. It's an old ancient law.
oh, interesting.
And he said, "Come live with us across the street with these people." And there's different people. Hell's Angels on the top floor, and Brian Eno's on the fourth floor, and and the Gay Liberation people on the second floor. And these groupies from Iceland were on the second floor, and we're in the basement. It's bombed out basement with the old dirty drapes for blankets at night, and we take showers wherever we could, and try and eat someplace during the day, and try and rehearse and try and get recording studio time and run the streets of London all day long. Michael was pretty cool, and and we had what they call a paraffin, or we call it a kerosene heater, and we had to go to the petrol station and get the paraffin and put the gas in there. And one day I came out of there and it was a little shop across the street. And I went over thinking it was about a thing of orange juice. And I went across the street, and the big thing for being American is that the traffic is coming from the right.
Right. Yeah.
When you walk out between parked cars, look to the right. And as I came out between these two parked cars, it's a single lane street. All of a sudden, I started to faint. I'd never fainted before in my life. I saw this thing in white going, whoa, what's going on? And I look, and this red bus was right there, like 2 feet away. And somehow I pulled myself in between the parked cars. Big flash of red doing about 30 miles an hour going.
Jeez.
And I gathered myself and I got across the street to the shop, and I bought the orange juice, and I'm staying at the cash register paying for it. Happened again. Here comes the whiteout going, whoa. And I had asphyxiation. I didn't have enough oxygen because we had not cracked the windows wide enough that night for the gas to go out. And we were sleeping in
Oh,
this fog of kerosene. So
right.
I almost never came back from England.
Jeez. Wow. That's horrifying. That's spooky. Oh my gosh.
So I mean, most of that stuff would send people home, packing home to mom and dad immediately.
Yeah. No,
I'm out of here. But
yikes.
we stayed with it, you know, and that was just one of those things. But a zillion of those kind of stories. I could fill the book with, stories. But I try to make the book more about the act of actually going and playing the band, auditioning, what that's like, and getting record deals and getting recognition, and the business of music, which is like 85% business and 15% of playing the guitar.
Yeah.
The rest of it's a lot of business. And most people don't understand it's a lot of business, a lot of lawyers, a lot of contracts. So I mentioned that in the book too about all the legal things that go on. You get slammed with it, and you can sign something that you could screw yourself the rest of your life if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Just one signature in the wrong contract at the wrong point of your life, and you don't make any money. Like the guys in Kansas had that happen to them
Right.
with Gene Kirshner. They went to New York City. Wow, we're from Kansas, we're from Topeka. We're in New York City. Yeah. You know, great guys, great band, fantastic band. And they signed away their publishing to him. And they never made a dime off the records. Phil drummer was saying they sold 50 million albums, never got a dime from those records. The only money they ever made was playing live.
That is
And
insane.
that's Don Kirshner made millions, and
Yeah.
he gave them nothing. Nice guy.
Yeah. God.
He's
Yeah.
out there. And those are the guys behind Carole King. They got TV shows. They're big people. And it's like if you want to pay to play, you got to sign these crummy contracts and hope you get famous, and then rearrange everything that the next two or three records and come back at them and say, here's what we're going to do from now on. Like Billy Joel or something like that. David Bowie, you can cut your own prints, make your own terms.
Yeah.
Here's what we're doing from now on. And you're gonna give in. And the record company goes, oh, they will do that. Fight, but they give in. And that's a real ball game. And it has nothing to do with music. It's all about the money part of the music. And
Yeah.
that changes things when money comes in there.
Yeah, I think as music
So,
fans, I don't think we realize that it's easy to romanticize about the music industry and being in a band and I think like exactly what you said. I mean, I think that's why there's so many
right,
young bands, there's so many stories of that happening where these young kids, get excited, they get signed and then they just sign themselves, their lives away, not realizing what they've done. I mean, John Fogerty,
right.
I mean, just the
Yeah.
Beatles initially.
And the
Um,
guy could be your brother, your cousin, like Billy Joel's brother-in-law robbed him of a few $1 million because he was his accountant. He stole a few $1 million off Billy Joel's brother-in-law. It's hard. You got to learn how to trust people and figure that out. It's not easy. Makes a lot of people crazy.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it was,
we've gone through some of that in our own way. We had those problems too, and duked it out, and still stayed together and still played music and kept going. So,
yeah, it was really
very proud of that. May
yeah.
not be the Rolling Stones, but it didn't do
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that was, I like, you mentioned that in the book. Yeah. You had the wherewithal to, like think things through and like, okay, no, we're not, I think, yeah, you mentioned in the book, the Kansas getting screwed by Don Kirshner, which was really disheartening for me because, I had loved not necessarily Don Kirshner, but growing up in the 70s and I had watched
Right.
his shows and I was obsessed with those concert shows. I wish we still had that kind of stuff today. I
Right.
think rock concert and the other show I watched as a kid that I adored was Midnight Special. And I wish we
Right.
still had
Wolfman
some.
Jack.
Yeah, I wish we still had that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But I mean, maybe there's some of that, but not that kind of variety and just, and it was really just about
Right.
the
Well,
music.
it was right. And and back then, music wasn't pigeonholed into all these different things. There'd be a show with, John Fogerty and Sly and the Family Stones, the other band.
Yeah, yeah,
It wasn't all metal bands together or all pop bands, folk bands. That didn't happen till the end of the 70s. The consultants entered the picture.
right.
And that was pretty cool. We had a video because being with Kiss, we had a video, able to do a video. Back then, you didn't have a video unless you were Elton John or somebody famous.
Right.
Wasn't a big thing yet. When we were on Don Kirshner, we were doing our second album up in Boston, and we were on the Don Kirshner show. We took a break out one night to watch the show on a Friday night, and we were just screaming, throwing stuff at the TV set. We're on the TV, we're on TV. We're on TV. I mean, if you're on TV, I have to call my mom. One of the biggest things in my life is to call my mom and say, we're in a TV guide. If you're in a
Wow.
TV guide, you're doing something right.
Wow, you made it.
That
Yeah.
was the Bible. Everybody's family back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s had to buy the TV guide at the
Oh,
grocery
yeah.
store to know what was on TV.
Yeah.
That was it. Three channels, three or four channels, what movies are on, what game shows are on in the daytime, whatever, and who's going to be on Midnight Special this week, and who's going to be on Don Kirshner's rock concert. We are.
Yeah. That's
I'm
awesome.
a TV guy. It says Kiss, the New England's like, yeah, it's
Oh,
cool.
that's cool. I'd love to find a copy of that. Yeah, I don't think my parents, because we had the TV guide. I don't think my parents kept any of those, but yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be great to find that. I would
I
love
got
to.
a copy of it somewhere.
Nice. Very cool.
Somewhere it lives. It lives in somewhere in my book, my boxes of things I've collected over the years. I've been the group historian for both bands,
Oh,
and I
no.
have journals going back into the 70s.
Oh, wow.
So I was able to piece together a pretty accurate time frame when all this stuff happened and didn't happen. They always call me, "Did we play there then?" No, we played there then. Okay.
Nice. Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that you have these diaries because yeah, some of it, some of this. I mean, I know people have better memories than I do, but yeah, I was kind of fascinated by the detail of memory that you had, and yeah, maybe it's that maybe the diaries helped with some of that, or maybe you have a great memory as well. But
Yeah, I got a good memory, and but that helps the details of when was it? Was it April? Was it June?
yeah, yeah,
And so that's come into play. Some of the things, and I just started doing that, and it worked out pretty well. We had a reference where we were, and we'd come back, say, to a particular city on the next record, same radio station, same disc jockey, same program directors. We know that the guy's name is Joe and his wife likes chocolate cake. So we bring a chocolate cake to the studio second time. We're gods. I can't believe it. What good guys you guys are. We're in a book reading. Okay, the guy's name's Joe. The guy's name's Tony. Okay, Tony and Joe. Tony and Joe. Hey, Tony, how you doing? You know, boom. In like Flynn.
yeah,
And that's all what you learn when you are in that level of promoting a band nationally and internationally, going to all these record stores and signing autographs and meeting people. And you can be a dolt and not pay attention to people's names and say, I don't care who's the cashier or whatever. But if you tell the girl Jane, the cashier, that hey, thanks, he's like, wow, they said thanks.
yeah,
Makes a big deal in people's lives to be nice to people.
yeah.
So it helped us out in that regard for a lot of things.
Very cool. Nice.
And it's the old Dale Carnegie thing. Remember people's names.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely makes a difference, I think. Yeah, I mean yeah, you can see yeah, when somebody's acknowledged and just their eyes, light up. Yeah,
Right.
that's important. That's cool. Um, I know you've played hundreds, if not thousands of shows. But I was curious, and the the background of this question is when you first agreed to do this interview with me, and you would ask me where I was, and I said I was in Utah, and you sent me a photograph of playing at the Salt Palace, and you were dressed as a Viking, and you were touring with UFO, I think, at the time, right?
Molly Hatchet.
Molly Hatchet. Okay, that's right. Molly Hatchet. So I was curious if there's any particular, apart from that show, maybe, if there's any particular shows or a show that really stands out for you, like kind of just tattooed into your memory of like, wow, like what an amazing event this was.
Right. Oh, probably Madison Square Garden because I got kicked out of high school for long hair and dress code infractions and all that baloney in the 60s. And we'd say, I grew up in Connecticut, and we're only 2 hours up the street from Greenwich Village. So we go down all the time, buy cool clothes and guitars and stuff. Win battle of bands, go buy microphones and go into the village and stare at Electric Ladyland Studios across the street. Ooh, it's with Jimi Hendrix. And then, ooh. And then, 10 years later, we're in there spending 20 grand a week doing tracks for the second New England album. But I think Madison Square Garden, we played the Garden with Kiss. We played 2 nights and sold out. We got standing ovations. The whole Dynasty tour we played with Kiss, we got standing room, ovations every night.
Wow, cool.
And Kiss were cool with that. And I just stood there and said, wow, we did it. And our roadie was my first guitar teacher. And he'd gone in the army and kind of stopped playing, but he said, I'll go on the road, you guys, and be the tech. I said, no. He goes, I'll do it. It's okay. So we're both standing there thinking about, being in high school 10 years before. And here we are, we're Madison Square Garden and well, boom.
Wow.
And I described we did the same tour. They announced us, and the whole place stood up screaming and yelling. I knew who we were already. And I was just stood with my mouth open, going, wow, wow, what's happening?
Yeah, that's got to be
And
surreal.
yeah, it's just sort of. thousands of people screaming and yelling. All they said was, "Welcome to England." The whole place jumps up like a hockey goal. Going, damn. And of course, Tokyo is pretty cool. It's like Beatlemania over there. They know your mother's grandmother. They know her middle name, everything about you. And they're really dedicated fans. They're really great people. So playing over there was trippy for that. We were the first Alcatrazz tour with Engave. We were in the same hotel with Duran Duran, and that was
Oh,
just
interesting.
bedlam. There were like 2,000 fans in the lobby, if less than that.
Wow.
All these little girls looking for autographs and hundreds of them. And you got outside the hotel or out in the street, parking lot's full. And it was like being you could kind of get a taste. It was like to have been in the Beatles or the Rolling Stones or something like that level of fame. It's like, it's pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool. You can just kind of walk around and nobody can recognize you. I'm not like Paul McCartney or something like that. And so I can walk into a gas station. It's no big deal.
Correct.
But to be really famous like David Bowie, then you have to curtail where you can go and where you can't go. And then maybe you have somebody come with you in case people give you, you know, hard time or something. So I got a taste of all those things. And the gigs, there's a lot of great gigs that we did. I mentioned a gig in the book about the school for crippled children we played when I was in high school.
Oh yeah, that was really cool.
I won't mention that, I guess, if you want to read the book, but that had a big effect on me. That
Yeah.
was that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a beautiful story. That was really cool. That was, yeah. So yeah, anybody, yeah, read the book. Read the book. You want to hear that story? It's a great, that was a great story. That was, yeah, very heartwarming, and yeah, that was very cool. Um uh well, Gary, thank you so very much for chatting with me today. This has been an absolute honor, truly, and a pleasure chatting with you. Um and yeah, for everybody watching, definitely pick up this book. It's fantastic. You will not be able to put it down. And as I mentioned earlier, I'll have a link in the description below. Also, if you don't have it already, go pick up Alcatrazz's last album. Um, Fantastic album. Yeah, Take No Prisoners. This is, as you can see, I've got it signed. Absolutely love it. As all of their albums, fantastic. But very excited for the fact, keep an eye out. New album coming out, possibly the end of this year or early next year. So that's very, very exciting news, of course. And again, thank you so much, Gary. This has been just a pleasure, just an absolute pleasure chatting with you today. Thank you.
Thanks, Victor.